Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of the Union DJs podcast, the audio supplement to our Facebook group found at facebook.com/groups/Union DJs, listed as the Union, a DJ community. I'm DJ Adam Dutch, joined by DJ Sway.
What's up, everyone? If you are not a member of the Facebook page already, you don't have to be a Baltimore DJ to join. We have members from all over the country, mostly in the Mid-Atlantic. Major rule, though, is you must be a DJ. So no producers, promoters, club owners, etc. Self-promotional posts such as flyers are not allowed because there are roll calls to show you where other members may be given on a certain evening. So, we do like to keep each other apprised as to where we are, but we don't actually promote events or try to, push our following in this group. So it's just an environment for DJs to seek advice, feedback, network, and a non-confrontational, fun atmosphere. We'll be discussing various topics in the world of DJing through the life of this podcast. And it's not aimed at any one level of expertise, but pretty much just a platform where we can embellish ideas. So, Adam Dutch, tell me just kind of a little bit about your background.
Well, I hit 11 years of DJing come this November. Before that, I was a professional musician, had a very extensive music performance background. One day, one of the guys I was playing for the band, Jeremy, at Borgeous City, said he was starting to DJ there and knew I had a large collection of music and some very good music knowledge. So he invited me along. We were tag teaming some gigs for there. Kind of snowballed, then I started getting gigs of my own, snowballed from there. The band scene collapsed, and now I find myself working completely full-time as a DJ for the past 3 years. I also do a lot of production work, make some custom mashups, do some other music production elements, do some lectures. I'm also writing a book right now. And Sway, what's your history with DJing?
So I started, as I'm sure a lot of guys and girls did, back in the college scene, frat parties, house parties, stuff like that. That was maybe 6 years ago, I guess, at this point. So worked my way up from there to doing, small venues, mostly college bars. And I was, finally able to take on some high profile gigs a couple years in. So from there, I'm just building my resume. I'm always still looking to grow, but I'm DJ all over DC, Maryland, Baltimore area.
For our inaugural episode, we thought it was appropriate to discuss the topic of things we wish we would have known when we were beginners, things that we wish we would have known when we first started DJing that maybe people didn't tell us at the time. And of course, Josh, as we know, it's not something we just study and practice, and all of a sudden we go out at a club and we're amazing the first show.
No, definitely not.
Sway and I composed a list of the top things we wish we knew when we first started DJing. The first one is realize that not every venue or audience is created equal.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I sort of went into my first few venues where I would just, do my own thing. And it's important to realize that certain formats don't work for every place. There's each spot's unique in some form and fashion, and you really just have to realize that early on. Otherwise, you're going to run into problems.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys who start out, well, no one who's starting out is sitting at a bar and they're hearing a DJ play in front of 10 people like, oh, I really want that guy's job. These kids who are, especially after this EDM craze that just happened over the last few years, they're going to these massive festivals or shows to see these DJs play in front of 10,000 people. Or they're at a nice club, they see hot girls at bottle service, they see DJs partying, having fun. And they're thinking, wow, I really wanted to do this. And they're thinking that's going to be how it is every night in the nightclub scene. Well, I got news for them. There's going to be nights where you play in front of 10,000 people, and there's going to be nights where you play in front of 10 people. There may also be nights where you play in front of just the people working there. So with that comes a different mindset when it comes to your performance and attitude of the night.
No, that's so true. I mean, I can just I can pick on others that I've seen, but just one of my own examples is I actually one of my first big gigs was at Power Plant Live. I was only a couple years into the business, so I was a decent enough DJ on like a technical level, but when it came to like reading my crowd and working with venue managers, that was something where I learned pretty quickly. You can't just show up in a place like that and do your own thing. It's funny because I thought I could. Within probably a half hour, I had the head manager yelling at me, and I had no idea why. I thought, if I'm making the crowd dance, it's cool. But you really do have to look at those things, especially because certain venues have a certain format in mind, and you got to make sure that you're on the same page as them.
Now, what exactly was happening there with what you were doing, where you had people dancing, however the management thought you needed to do something else?
Yeah, well, it was your typical Baltimore crowd, real mixed, diverse group of people. I was throwing on some I don't know, probably one of the top 10 hip hop songs of the time, and people were getting a little rowdy. I was like, all right, well, this is cool. I was taking one of the clubs that was normally slow, so the fact that I was getting a crowd made me feel good. I felt like I was bringing in business that would otherwise go next door. So in my mind, I was doing a good job. And the manager, they pretty much had in this case, when it came to hip hop, they were a lot more careful. I mean, you couldn't play hip hop that was, say, more than, 10 years young, so to speak. They wanted to keep it more mainstream, old school, kind of sort of that type of mix. So, that was a situation where, when I'm DJing, I couldn't just stop and have a conversation with the manager. I just kept getting yelled at for the next 3 hours, and it was pretty rocky.
Yeah, just talking in terms of format. When I first started, it was more of bar atmosphere rather than club, where you have a lot of people sitting down for the first hour, and then once they get a few drinks in them, you have a dance floor once they clear some tables, more restaurant atmosphere.
Yeah.
So I was told by a lot of people you had to play a lot of throwbacks, a lot of 80s, and this is mid 2000s, a little bit late 2000s when this happens. So I was doing all these 80 sets and 90 sets, and people were digging it. But I remember one night, some guy who was about 45, 50 years old came up to me 2 songs into a set like that and said, "Can you play something newer?" I'm like, well, that was surprising. This guy's like grew up with this music, but he doesn't want to hear it right now. So at that point, I knew it was important to be diverse and don't assume anything about your audience.
Yeah. Well, I guess then on top of that is each venue and each, even evening within the same venue is different. So don't get stuck into a rut where you sort of do the same routine every single night. Cause, like you just said, you might have those people that were expecting or wanting something else. You always got to read your crowd in the moment. At least that's what I found.
Yeah. And I've been a music teacher for a long time and have some younger DJs reach out to me pretty often. And they ask me, what's the number one advice I have for them or the biggest mistake I see beginners make? Hands down, it is inappropriate programming, especially at the beginning of the night. I've seen people drop like really hardcore trap remixes at 10:15 when people are coming into the bar to get their first drink. No one's going to dance to it. They're trying to chill, they're trying to talk and get to socialize a little bit before that happens. Also, are you going to show up at a bar where people are wearing cowboy hats and cowboy boots and do an EDM set for the first hour?
Yeah. Oh, well, it's funny because going again back to my college days, I one night I didn't feel like DJing, and I actually brought some kids in to go ahead and take care of that for my graduation party. And same thing as you just said, they just started playing electro house at like 9:30 at night. I'm like, come on, look around, and you really can't just. I mean, you gotta be playing for your crowd. It's hard though sometimes because especially in the Baltimore area, you get groups where there's like a lot of different people. So it's something that kind of takes practice, and going out and watching other DJs is always key, especially if you're still new.
Our key point here is to realize that not every venue or artist is created equal. However, not every venue knows this. Some of these venues believe that all DJs are created equal on the flip side. So they're expecting every single DJ to be the same who comes in their venue.
Well, I guess certain venues are maybe used to a certain resident DJ. And if they transition out of that for whatever reason, they're expecting that any other person they bring in is going to have that same, skill set or style. But that's definitely not true. I think that just comes back to making sure you communicate whenever you show up at a gig for the first time at a new spot.
I've noticed this is more of a problem with like really small venues, ones that maybe hold like 50 to 100 people in small towns. Like I did some shows before where the DJs before me would be on the microphone constantly and throwing out T-shirts, and that was not my style at all. And of course, when the venue manager saw that I wasn't talking to the mic every 10 minutes, they come and yell at me.
What did they say exactly?
I was booked at a certain venue by a booking agent that used to be a very, very popular spot. Their crowd had died, and they were trying to build back up their dance crowd again. Multiple problems with the venue, just in terms of setup. They put the DJ by the door, so there was wind coming in all the time and no atmosphere whatsoever. But the manager wanted me to announce drink and food specials every 3 songs. And he actually said every 3 songs. So I was like, this is going to get really annoying. The people are going to get annoyed. What's the point of this? So after I didn't do it for 6 songs, he came up and said announcements. And I basically told him to his face, how about getting a sign? Why have your DJ do this? Should I just record a drop real quick where it says like 99-cent tacos and $2 Coors Lights and just press the button every time? Because your artist is going to get really pissed at me. And I get pissed at you. It's just too much advertising. But
you actually said that to him.
Oh, yeah. I didn't care. Employees seem to hate that manager to begin with. He ended up getting fired later down the road. But that was part of standing my ground because that was not my show. My show was not being on the microphone constantly. My show was mixing a lot of different genres together and some interesting wordplay, things that have a dance floor going and the people who aren't dancing are going to pay attention. They're probably not going to pay attention to me if I'm announcing the same 3 things throughout the entire night.
Mm-hmm. I think again that just comes back to making sure that you're talking to the people because maybe I can think of places that I've played at where I had similar situations. I didn't realize until the middle of the set that I was supposed to be doing things a certain way. Especially if you're a new DJ, things like that just catch you off guard. It's a little harder to be flexible, versus when you fast forward a few years later, you're more experienced, you can be more flexible. So that's definitely, I think, a pretty common that a lot of people will run into if they don't touch base with the decision makers, so to speak, before they start that club gig.
What is your process when booking a new venue?
Well, I do like to chat, with the managers. I don't have a booking agent when it comes to public venues like lounges, nightclubs, and bars. So I'm usually, before I walk in, I know what I'm getting into. But that's one of the first things that I always, try to talk about. Let's say I haven't even sealed the deal yet. I'm trying to figure out what it is that they're looking for, because then, this is a whole separate discussion, but you can sell yourself if you know what exactly it is that they want. So that's typically my approach.
What are some other, this industry is built on a lot of unwritten rules, but what are some other rules that you've encountered at different venues around the area?
I've had certain songs even being banned. Again, going back to Baltimore, a lot of them, they wouldn't let you play, not that you'd want to, but they wouldn't let you play any line dances. And I was kind of the DJ where I didn't want to play them, but if someone requested a song, I wanted to make sure I kept everyone happy. So, stuff like that, especially if you're at casual spots, you might get something like that you're not aware of. So
I'm actually wishing that would be a nationwide rule of banning line dances. I know they always get pissed, but the DJs would be very happy. I'm very curious because I don't play Baltimore as much anymore. I'm more of the ocean side. What are some other songs you've seen banned? Well,
I would say it's more styles. Again, going back to the dark horse of hip hop. that's the one thing we all love to play, but probably can't play as often as we'd like. So it probably has a lot more to do with that. The other thing besides that would be there's some venues, and these are like nightlife, real crazy crowds after 10:30 at night. But I've actually probably DJ'd at half a dozen spots where the venue require that we played clean edits of everything.
Yeah, I've seen that happen at multiple spots, even though it's 21 plus. It basically goes to, so if you have and I'm in a resort town, so we have incidents where there's 21-year-olds dancing by 71-year-olds. and the reason for that is because they don't want people getting offended and leaving. And I have heard multiple stories of that happening where like some conservative older woman is in the bar and there's a song about, I don't know, what's this, fucking some slut. and they'll walk right out and they probably would have spent some more money there.
Right. And the older people, they're probably, buying top shelf besides the 21-year-olds who are drinking rails. So it's like, from a business perspective, it does kind of make sense depending on where you are, like you said.
I have found with specific songs, they usually will tell you. And I've seen different songs banned of all types of genres. I won't name the venue, but there is an incident where I've seen I Shot the Sheriff by Bob Marley banned.
Wow.
And the reason that was banned was because audiences, believe it or not, would fight to that song. That's usually the case I've seen where either fights break out. I've also seen Limp Bizkit break stuff banned before. Or the manager hates the song, or the owner hates the song. And they just say to the entertainment director or the DJs, don't play the song at my club anymore.
I guess if I ever, owned a venue somewhere in the future, I'd probably be one of those DJs or one of those owners where I would do the same thing. I mean, but yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you would say though, as a rule, probably genre being banned is probably the most common that you've come across, right?
Oh yeah. It's usually the most appropriate in certain circumstances, not necessarily an official ban where they're saying, hey, you can't play country night or you can't play reggae, but more of like an unwritten thing. So I'm probably not going to be blasting a lot of club music at a tiki barge or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure we could spend a whole podcast just on song selection because that just gets back to
we probably will.
Sure that, yeah.
Just talking about once they actually have the gig and getting to know the audience, I can't stress the importance of knowing who is at that bar every single week, the regulars. Mm-hmm. I played a bar before where I was there for about 2 to 3 years, almost every week, and the regulars would ask for the same songs literally for 2 years straight. Have you seen this happen before?
Oh, well, you would get, you're talking about people that you recognize because you see them every single time you're there, right?
Yes.
Yeah, like, as soon as they walk up to you, what song they're going to ask for.
Yeah, and you would think they would know you by now. But I think it's just a personal connection as well. Like they want to actually talk to you, but they don't know what to say, especially when they see you every week. And on the other side of this, I've seen incidents before where you have people there every week, they're paying attention, but they never talk to you. They never ask for a song, but you get to know what they like.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I think it is important to build connections with people because, they can sometimes, watch your back. I mean, I've had people who didn't really have anything personal to gain, do things for me. Maybe they grabbed me a water, maybe they watched my turntables, made sure no one, messed with them while I, maybe went to the restroom, stuff like that. So it's just, if you're trying to keep your residency, you got to make friends with everyone.
Yeah, as smaller bars, I wouldn't be opposed to actually going up to people. And this is more of a chance when this isn't your first gig there. You've been there a few times, maybe recognize people. Actually go up to them and ask them what they like, get some conversation started. Maybe you notice what they're playing on the jukebox before you go on. Maybe you notice a band t-shirt. Things like that I pay attention to. And I can't stress the importance of doing this with the staff there. Every time I'm sitting down at the bar, I usually get dinner before a show. I talk to the bartenders, just ask them what they listen to. Once you start to get those ideas and the bar is dead and you're playing to the staff, you can gain a lot of recognition that way.
That's interesting you say that because I've actually gotten residencies because, maybe it was, a little bit slower as we were trying to build it up. But I would hear from the decision maker that the staff really liked my music, so they wanted me to come back. And sometimes, that's one of the main things that they actually go off of. They're asking the bartenders who are there every night, which DJ did you like the best? We're making a new schedule. So that really can help you out.
Absolutely. And plus, some venues, you have no idea who's actually booking the entertainment directly. You could be dealing with someone else. I've seen incidents before where it was like the hostess at the restaurant. I've seen the head bartender. I've seen the general manager. So you never know who's actually listening to you and who's the decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing we wish we knew as beginners is to test your damn gear before you go out in the field. Sway, have you had any bad incidents with this?
Oof. I had one. This is maybe not even a year in, but I got a gig at like this rooftop spot and I was pretty excited. I was told you got to bring, I think in this case it was RCA cables. And it was one of those weird spots where the RCA port is like a little bit of ways from the DJ booth. So, I tried to cut the corner. I, had one of those like RCA adapters. I had like a long XLR cord. I thought I could just hook it up. But long story short, there was no sound coming out. So imagine you're standing up there in the DJ booth. There's dozens of people in front of you eating, drinking, ready to have fun. they cut the house sound, you press play, nothing comes out. So it just comes back to making sure you're super prepared. I think in my case, I didn't want to bring all my gear with me. And, cutting corners like that is something that's tempting, especially when you're a rookie. But, you just got to make sure that you over prepare, since you never know.
Yeah, here's $1 million tip. I recommend having a DJ emergency kit in your car at all given times. I'll put a link in the show notes to one of the ones that I use, but my emergency kit has every single adapter you can think of. So 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch to XLR, female, male, all kinds of different adapters, plus an auxiliary cord just in case, an extra XLR cable. There's multiple things in there, so any type of connection you need to a house system can work. Or if you have to plug your phone into a mixer for emergencies, that can work. Because there will be equipment failures. When I first started, I actually didn't have my own sound system. I was borrowing gear from friends until I was able to buy my own. I was teaching music at a music store at the time, had a gig that night, and I special ordered a sound system that they got me. It was 2 tops with a power amp. I already had the mixer, so I was ready to go. Get the gear brand new, drive to the gig, start the show. 30 seconds into the first song, the power amp cuts off. I hit the power button, put it back in, it starts up again. 30 seconds in, it drops again. Did it again the third time. At that point, I had to cut the gig off. And being a little inexperienced at the time, I didn't think to actually call someone else for some backup gear. So I went home, the gig was canceled. First thing I do when I get home is take that power amp and plug it in to a different wall outlet at a different venue just to make sure. And it does the same thing. It turned out to be a defective amp. Even though it was brand new, it was defective, and I had to get a replacement. Now you're
talking something fresh out of the box, never been used.
Yep, completely brand new. And I was asking people online, they're like, that's absolutely no reason why a new amp should behave like this. The store manager at the place apologized and said that was the first time he ever seen that happen with that model. That next model he sent me actually lasted me, I think, 9-10 years before I sold it, and it's still working for the person I sold it to. So it was just that one defective amp, but that also cost me a few $100s that night because I had to cancel the gig, and a lot of embarrassment because I was kind of fresh out of the gate at that venue, and then a thing had to happen.
Yeah, and what I think a lot of new rookie DJs don't realize is that you have so much riding on your reputation, especially when you're starting off. If you get these types of opportunities, like you gotta capitalize on it. So it's way better to, over prepare, over test things, just because if you're starting from scratch, you really gotta, make sure that everything goes smooth.
And while we're talking about equipment, one thing I stress to beginners is don't be afraid to spend money on your gear. Don't buy these controllers or mixers they came from Toys R Us that cost like $200 because they will fail you.
Yeah, and it's hard too, especially, most new DJs, they don't have a lot of money. So, I've definitely been in situations where I bought stuff that wasn't going to last. I knew it wasn't going to last, but I wanted to start somewhere. And it just makes more sense to buy once. If you buy quality, you're set for the next 10 years.
I've seen an instance before where a DJ had a really, really cheap mixer and it sounded completely distorted. It was a situation, one of those multiple DJs at one spot. One of the people came up to me who worked there and said his mixer sounds terrible. So I go look at it, and his mixer looks like a Christmas tree with green, red, and yellows all over the place. The master was all the way up. So I was like, well, this is your problem here. And that mixer had really low output, so that was the reason why it sounded that way, not to mention the gain structure of it. However, another thing that makes me cringe more than anything is see DJs walk around with mixers and controllers and no case. One drop and you're done.
Oh, and you see it a lot.
Yeah, way too much. And that's part of the just demeanor of how you look coming into a club. When you're walking there with just the mixer out of nowhere, especially industry professionals.
What I think, and then kind of going back to the, make sure that you're prepared is you got to make sure that you have redundancies when it comes to the little things that really are important. I had one situation where I thought my headphones were going to be fine. I show up, and this was early on. I realized that instead of the regular, headphone output, it was 1/4 inch, and I wasn't able to use my headphones for 3 hours.
Oh,
so, I learned my lesson, and it was it's funny because probably the next week after that, I then had a doubleheader where I DJ'd till 3 in the morning. And then I had another day party the next day. And I show up at the day party, I realized my headphones were at the other venue 45 minutes away. So, if anything bad could happen, everything bad's going to happen. Always, always, always plan ahead for things like that. I learned my lesson. Thankfully, I had, my earbuds as like a backup. So it's always important to assume that, something bad happens, someone spills a drink on, one of your, little pieces of equipment. You've always got to have a backup in place in that bag, like you said.
Yeah, let's just say for the sake of argument, just have two of everything for a gig. I mean, I woke out with two laptops in case something happens to one or it crashes during a gig. There's a backup mixer with me at all times. There's twice the amount of cables usually. The only thing I don't bring double are power speakers. It's because if one fails, you usually have a backup of another. And most of the spots that I do have their own house system.
So do you actually have like a full DJ setup that you just keep in your car, like a bag with a secondary laptop and cables that just sits there in case you need to get it?
No, that comes with me just in one bag. I just have a DJ bag that has two laptops, and I put backup music of everything I played this year on a flash drive. So if anything happens with my laptops or I need to borrow one, I can just plug that flash drive in, launch Serato, and I'm good to go with all my crates.
Wow. Like you said, you never know. When it comes to, your mindset, I've learned, and I wish I knew this when I first started, is that your work for the gig begins before you actually show up and start playing. I think, again, this was probably like year one into my career. I thought that I would be able to just plug my laptop into the CDJs and rock it out. So I've got my Serato box. I get everything together. Nothing works. And since it was a plug and play setup, I was new. I thought showing up 10 minutes before start time was okay. So, you're trying to get things going and, your decks aren't showing up. You're having these issues. And in that case, I think it was like I needed to update my software. So, I had to run back. I should have been playing music already, but I'm trying to get the Wi-Fi password from the manager. And, those are just situations you don't want to have to deal with.
Nothing will piss off a venue more than a DJ not playing on time.
And plus, it's so easy. It's like the simplest thing. Like, just show up, make sure that you're ready when you're supposed to start. But so that I think that makes it even worse if you mess that part up.
Yeah, I have a rule where even now, over a decade into my career, I still show up an hour early before each gig. Because that gives me enough time to troubleshoot things if needed. And I don't like just showing up and all of a sudden you're right on. I like being able to relax a little bit before the show begins.
Well, I think another thing kind of on that same note is when you do show up, obviously you're prepared, but always again, going back to mindset, play as if there's lots of other people in the room. I mean, I've had situations where there weren't that many people at a specific venue, but I chose just to go ahead and pretend like, it was a full house. People came up to me just, in the audience and they said, "Hey, I want your card. I've, got this party coming up," or "I'm actually a venue owner 2 doors down," stuff like that. It's just, always assume that there's important people watching you because you never know.
Also make sure you're actually at the DJ booth. I see so many DJs when it's really, really dead, they'll throw a mix on and they'll sit at the bar and drink the rest of the night. I think the audience isn't paying attention to that. I've actually seen Facebook reviews at venues where people complained about that.
I think too, and there's those horrible DJs we see where they really don't care, they're disrespectful, they do stuff like that. But I think there's a tendency for a lot of new DJs to think, well, it doesn't make a difference, it's not hurting anything, and that's how they see, what's a good decision or not. And that's really not the right mindset you want to have. Like you said, you got to put yourself in other people's shoes. What do they see? What do they think when you do certain things?
Of course, when it's dead, the bar didn't want it that way. The DJ is not going to have any fun playing to an empty room. Yes, they could put it on a jukebox. However, they just paid you. So that's part about being a professional.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you do that, then you're no better than them throwing on a mix. You're not really providing any extra value.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and one more little story on that is treat every single person like they matter. Especially when we're new DJs, we often think that we're the hot shit. We know what we're doing, and you just got to be careful. You got to treat everyone with respect. This may seem like common sense, but in the moment, when things are crazy, you just got to watch how you talk to people. I had someone ask for what I thought was a dumb song request. I said, no, I'm not playing that. Put my headphones on, pretended like he wasn't there. Turns out this kid was the owner's little cousin. So the owner comes to me 5 minutes later, curses me out, and I end up basically being the personal song request taker for his cousin the rest of the night, which is even worse than it would have been if I just, maybe showed him some respect or, just treated him a little bit differently. So, any person you talk to, they can either help or hurt your career. And that's something I really wish I knew early on that it took me a little while to figure out.
Yeah, I had an incident before where I was playing a bar that was usually packed, but it was kind of an unusually slow night. Went outside to smoke a cigarette, and some girl asked me for Whitney Houston. And I was in like some kind of like chill, light dance set, and I'm like, well, that's kind of odd right now. And the manager was outside of there. He whispers in my ear, that's the owner's daughter, by the way. I'm like, okay, Whitney Houston, here we come.
Yeah. 3 Whitney Houston songs in a row.
Yeah, well, funny enough, she actually had some other like good requests. Like she was asking for some more alternative B-side 90s rock music. So it became fun. I got to know him a little bit. And that's the thing I also stress about requests, especially if you're new at a venue or just starting out. You'd be surprised at some of the requests that people give you. It's not always going to be shitty line dance requests or whatever's in the top 40. You can get to know your audience really quick by request.
That's true. And then again, those new spots where you haven't DJ'd often, those regulars can be your best asset because they know what works. They've been going there a lot.
Oh, yeah. And of course, I've been in instances, I still have this, but not as much as possible, where people just are complete assholes about having their request played or they're asking for stuff that's not in the vibe. It comes from experience, and it's different type of venues where I handle it differently. If I'm outside at a Sunday tiki bar and it's kind of like a chill vibe, requests are more appropriate than I'm in a nightclub setting and there's 2,000 people in the audience.
Right.
If you cuss some girl out because she comes up and requests a song, is she probably going to come back to you? Probably not. Do you want her to come back to you? Probably not. If she complains to the manager, is the manager going to get pissed at you? Probably.
Yeah, and I think you just got to be delicate in those situations. A new DJ is either gonna. I've seen new DJs where they just roll over. They play requests that everyone asks them to, and they mess up their sets. And then you have others where they say no requests. They piss people off, and like you said, manager's probably not happy if he has people saying that the DJ is an asshole. So even if you have to let someone down, there's a right and a wrong way to do it. And I know we touched on this earlier, but making the bar staff happy is really important. That should be one of your main focuses whenever you're DJing. It's funny, when I was going out one time, I noticed that the DJ was playing songs in the exact same order that he had the week before. And that is the absolute worst, especially if you're on staff at a certain venue. You're there all night, multiple nights a week anyway. You want to have as much variety as possible. And I see so many DJs just coming in, just doing their little routine. They're not, keeping a fresh sound. They're not doing anything besides just playing the same tracks that they like. And that's especially, when you're at spots that, have a certain standard, that's not going to fly. You're not going to stay there very long. Oh, and then another thing is, if you are working with staff, maybe you have a bar tab, is always tip your bartenders, especially, if they're taking care of you. It's really important just to make sure that you're the DJ that shows respect, that you appreciate what they do. Don't have that entitled attitude that since you're working, you should get everything, for free. I mean, that may be the case, even if they say, hey, you got a bar tab. I always make sure I tip the bartenders. And I've been surprised at how often the staff has said, wow, I wish more DJs would do this. So that's really a great way, just maybe a few bucks here and there, to solidify your spot, your residency wherever you are.
If there's anything that restaurant employees remember, it's non-tippers.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's how they make the living. So, I mean, they are providing good service too. I work with a lot of great staffs, and they'll bend over backwards to make sure I'm accommodated. So I just make sure to take care of them.
Yeah, and let's say that you come back a week later, you think they're going to refill your cup of water, you think they're going to come every now and then and say, "Are you doing okay?" If they know they're not going to get a tip, probably not. So, is it really worth it to save that, $10, $20 in tip? If they're not going to be watching your back every other gig that you do with them, probably not. So you got to have the big picture in mind.
Number 4 of what we wish we knew when starting out. Have a diverse music collection. Of course, if you're a DJ who's going to specialize in one particular genre, yes, focus on that. However, there are certain genres I recommend. If you're a tech house DJ, you're a street trap, or your wedding, have these songs of multiple genres because you never know when you're going to need them.
Well, assuming that, our rookie DJs are getting their own music, I think there's ways you can also think out of the box. It's a lot more than just making sure that your Billboard list is always up to date. Is because, you can only go so far. I mean, if I played the Billboard songs, I'd probably be okay for the first hour, but it's like, what do you do after that?
So come peak hour around midnight, you have nothing to go on. Are you going to play the same song 3 times in a row? Or 3 times in the night? Maybe.
And it's funny because you see that too. You see rookie DJs, they play the same song once per hour because they know it's a hot song. And that's, it may seem like a good idea, but it's actually, it's awful if you're actually there for more than a couple hours and you hear it.
And some may argue that it's a different crowd. However, you probably have the same staff. I've heard staff at venues complain that the previous DJ played like Despacito 5 times in a night.
I've heard that too. I've never personally wanted to do that, but a lot of people I talk to complain that, the DJ plays songs multiple times in a single evening.
If I absolutely have to, where like a very, very hot song is being highly requested and I get a request at, let's say, 10:30 and they're at 1:30, different remixes can definitely save you on that one.
That's true.
And it does make the song different.
Yeah, and I think remixes are key, especially if you're in the nightlife scene. You're going to get a lot more gigs if you play songs that people are going to dance to, but if you add like a nice little fresh element to it. There's so many remixes, especially nowadays, that are out there for all the top tracks. If you add those to your crates, it's really going to help you out a lot.
Now, how did you build your diverse collection?
Well, going back to when I was a rookie, I was kind of the iTunes guy. I didn't believe in DJ pools. I was ripping from YouTube. I was doing all the stuff that you hear about that we're not supposed to do, but some of us still do anyway. So I think it comes down to making sure you have more than one source. It's great to have a DJ pool, but also don't get stuck in that one DJ pool. I'm in one where it's $10 per month. That's all you pay. You get hundreds, maybe more tracks every single month in your inbox. So that's really important. Rookie DJs think that they should be spending as little money as possible, but that really is an important investment, and it doesn't cost a lot either.
Oh, no. I've heard of DJs spending as much as $500 a month on music. However, they were playing like new club tracks every single week in like a real like underground nightclub scene. However, don't believe you also can pay $0 a month and be able to have an appropriate collection.
Yeah, there's got to be a happy balance between the two.
Yeah, I can rip songs all day illegally. However, isn't it a little more time efficient and a little more economic for me to spend $30 a month on a record pool that has 20,000 tracks ranging from the 1950s to current top 40?
Yeah, and then too, what sounds good on your computer speakers at home is, in some cases, if it's ripped illegally, going to sound horrible when you're at the nightclub. And that's something a lot of rookies don't understand or realize until it's too late.
Yeah, because I started mid-late 2000s, and I started really building my collection in the early 2000s when like ripping CDs to iTunes first got big. And at that time, hard drive space was expensive.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about $1 for every gigabyte. So what we did to get away with that was we ripped the CDs at 128 kilobytes rather than 320. And those are basically unusable at this point in time. Don't be afraid to replace stuff in your collection. Sure, there's certain mixes that I play that I've had for 10 years. But others, I mean, I'm getting new redrums, I'm getting new remixes constantly. Some of the redrums, even from like 2009, 2010, sound very out of date right now. Or you have the mixes that had Fat Man Scoop on every single track, and that those hype edits don't exactly work too well anymore.
Yeah, and I've heard DJs where you could tell that they had, only a single source of music, because even if, like you said, they were remixes, they all sounded the same. Maybe they sounded cheap. It's just, you got to mix it up, and a couple extra bucks here and there, it really does pay off in the long run.
Well, I can tell everybody the hardest audience you've ever played in front of are other DJs. And since there are some popular pools out there, you can't have just one pool you're working with, because another DJ using that pool is probably playing the same edits and knows those edits.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I'm sure we'll probably take a whole week just to talk about, different ways of gathering music, because this is really this is your main job. It's not, DJing, it's making sure that you're prepared to have lots of songs to DJ on.
Oh yeah, the programming aspect, definitely.
So I know we could probably talk a lot about this, but even if we're just keeping it short, like, we're trying to use our different platforms effectively. What would be some things that, like, you wish you knew when you first started out?
Well, the internet was a different beast back then. We basically had MySpace, a little bit of Facebook, but it wasn't open to like the masses like it is now. And many people were still using more of specific type of platforms to promote their music for DJs. The biggest thing I wish I known at the time was how it would evolve to being as big as it is right now with video production. Video promotion is key to anything you are doing. They like seeing posts that you're doing at the club, seeing how busy it is, what type of mix you're doing. The Facebook Live thing right now is kind of controversial because there's been a lot of copyright violations and people having their videos banned basically because of doing that. That's a topic for another day. However, the uses of video and things you can do with that for promotional are definitely things I wish I would have known.
Yeah, I think the most common issue I see or mistake when I'm checking out younger DJs' pages is all they have are flyers. They don't show their face in any of the pictures. You don't know who the hell they are, if they're even real. You gotta make it personal. Like you said, those quick 30-second video clips that you can post of, the peak hour dance set. Those are nice. Maybe a couple pictures of, you with, some friends that have come out to see you, taking a group photo, stuff like that. Just anything to mix it up is really important.
I'm also stressing this because this is a thing I'm going to work on here shortly, is having great video and great photography at every venue I play at. I'm a little against this. I've been a culprit of this before. You sometimes have no option, but using photography from one venue to promote on a flyer for another venue.
You got to be super careful when it comes to those things.
It's a little different when you have like a white background at the venue as opposed to like there's specific decor, or like you're using photography from an outdoor venue to promote an indoor venue, because that's part of the advertisement and part of the image that you're trying to project.
So are you making your own flyers?
Yes, I use Photoshop for all my flyers.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think especially for new DJs, they don't have that much footage to go off of. And so these are little things where they try to, maybe make do with what they have, but that's kind of a mistake that you don't want to get into.
Yeah, and I'm a strong believer on building your skill set. You may not have to spend 20 hours a week learning Photoshop, but at least get some basic graphic design together, or get some templates and learn how to edit those templates to make your flyers look great. I've seen people even use memes as their flyer creation. It kind of gets the point across. I don't want to do that for every gig. It could be funny, but definitely have some variety involved.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's also got to be a regular activity. The flyers are great, but maybe you only have one gig per week. What else can you do so that people check your page, they see a little bit of regular activity? A practice session, perhaps sharing a new song that came out that you liked. I think it's really important to make sure that you're posting every now and then, so that bookers and people that really are checking you out can see that you have regular activity.
And of course, Facebook is constantly changing the algorithms of how things appear in the feed. if you post the same image multiple times, it actually hurts the view count. It goes down. Shares are different. If someone's sharing that organic post, that will get seen more. However, if you're uploading the same JPEG 5 times, it's not going to work in your benefit at all.
Yeah.
And I've noticed a change. I don't know if you noticed this way in the last few months or so. Facebook has changed its algorithms for vocabulary in the feed. I had a post where someone hired me to do some cheerleading mixes. I posted about it because I wanted to try to get a few more. And people who don't usually see my stuff, I'm assuming, but are on my friend's feed, and there were cheerleaders in the past, like those posts. Now, some could argue that it's because of interest, but I know for a fact that my stuff probably didn't appear in their feed because of the algorithms. But when I mention a keyword that's a key part of their interest, yes, it's going to appear in their feed. The same thing happened also a few weeks ago. There was a donation drive at a bar I was playing at. So at the beginning of the night, I posted the donation drive was like right by the DJ booth. So I took a picture, had the DJ booth, and had the donation drive. I say, DJ Adam Dutch starting this time, and there's a donation drive for canned goods for the hurricane. Now that post had donation in the description, and someone on the local school board liked the post because that's a person who's used to dealing with donation drives, fundraisers, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So having a diverse vocabulary. We'll mention this in a future podcast, but the uses of hashtags, tagging your venues, different things you can list in there. I always definitely list the town name you're playing at. Maybe the type of venues in a strip mall or a type of square or like the power plant live. Mention things like that catch people's interest.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're a rookie DJ, you probably haven't invested in a website. You don't have a .com presence, but these social media pages, these are free. You can set them up in a matter of minutes. If you actually put thought into what you post, how you set your page up, it can really be a great tool to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, and just don't have one. I recommend having at least 3 of them. So have a Facebook, have an Instagram, Snapchat, anything you can use to get these images and information you need to get across. Now, Sway, what are some things you see that people should not post?
Wow. Well, I think the biggest one is controversial topics. We're probably going to get into this on another future week in more detail, but always assume that your audience has mixed backgrounds. Don't post things controversial on your same page that you're trying to get people to follow you, come to your events, book you. You got to play it neutral when it comes to being a DJ, because really you're there for everybody. You don't want to box yourself out.
I've seen DJs who do weddings post that they're completely against gay marriage. I've seen DJs post about abortion. I've seen DJs post about election, and of course politics. In the last year, I've gotten very, very sided. But yeah, avoid these really hot, controversial topics on your Facebook. I saw a good post by another DJ in the Pennsylvania market a few weeks ago where he got a business card from another DJ that had like political views on their business card. And he was like, what is this? We might as well put Bible verses on there.
Wow.
Yeah, and of course, everybody wants to voice their opinion. However, if you start getting too much heat, you're not going to have fans. And that's what we're trying to build here.
Yeah, and if you really need to, if you really got to express yourself, make a private personal page. Don't have it be something everyone can check. Have your fan page as separate, maybe set up a second account. But, like you said, your job is to get as many fans as possible.
Yeah, the other thing I've seen people do, and this is just as damaging, is posting lies. When they claim they're a bigger DJ than they are. I've seen people post, like DJ post every single day, say, I'm going to blow up the club. And you never actually see a photo of them at the club or a video of them at the club. So they pretty much have 0 gigs.
Well, that's one of those things that just catches up to you. I mean, if you were to do that, there's going to be that one person who's planning on going that night. They don't see you. They put you on blast to the whole community.
Oh, yeah. This is not DJ related, but just on topic with putting lies on social media. I saw an incident before where someone was hosting an event and they didn't have many signups. They had to cancel the event. And instead of saying that it was canceled, they lied on social media and said it was actually sold out. Because they didn't want to make it look bad of the company that they had to cancel, so they just do the complete opposite. I mean, that's just stupid.
And that makes them look more bad because people show up and then they realize that you're fake.
Yeah, plus there was no photograph proof. I mean, it's just like saying, yo, that venue last night was amazing. Everybody was dancing, and maybe the gig got canceled or there was 0 people who showed up.
Well, it's those things that you think are common sense, but then you see someone go out and do it, right?
Oh, yeah. Now, I don't know if you've seen this way. I've heard of happening in other markets where DJs will actually post that they did someone else's gig.
Ooh, that's bad.
Yeah, or they lie about they opened for somebody.
Well, I've seen people pose in front of the turntables as if they were the DJ that night.
Yeah, I've seen that happen before as well. I mean, yeah, that's rough. I've also seen this was in the band community many moons ago, but it was a Taking Back Sunday show when they were out and very, very hot. They were playing somewhere in College Park, so a massive college scene. I think the concert sold out that night. A band was saying they opened for them, and it turned out that band was actually playing in the parking lot of the venue, and they claimed they opened for them. So opening means you're on the same stage, not the same zip code.
Oh, geez.
Well, these people in their mind are thinking, hey, I need to get some kind of recognition here, and I need to do it quickly. So they are being creative. However, these things will bite you in the ass after a while.
Yeah, it's never worth it. And it's hard. When you're new to the business, you're hungry, you're trying to do whatever it takes. You may feel like that, you're climbing uphill, but these things where you can potentially, get a leg up, when it comes to dishonesty, it's never worth it in the long run.
Absolutely not. And the key advice I have for any beginners out there, or especially DJs who are not doing this right now, is have a mix online. I'd be surprised at how many DJs who are full-time and making a living at this have absolutely zero audio on the internet. It's not that difficult to record a mix. Just record it live at a gig if you have to. It doesn't have to be completely polished, but this is our business. We're playing audio, so why should we not have audio samples online?
Oh, yeah, and it's free. You can set up a Mixcloud account, link it to your Facebook. You don't even have to set up new passwords or anything like that. It's so easy now, especially in 2017 where everybody's digital.
Yeah, I've even seen beginner DJs who don't necessarily have the beat matching skills yet, just play a hot like hip hop song they like and have a small video or some audio that just says their name and how to contact them. Even that is more beneficial than having nothing.
Yeah, you can make that with Snapchat, Instagram nowadays.
Absolutely. But having those mixes online, you're reaching an audience that doesn't hear you at live gigs. And that's the key part of this. I have people who comment on my social media posts saying they like the mix, or they're looking forward to the next one, or they want me to do this type of mix, who I've never seen at a live show of mine. Maybe they're older. Maybe they don't drink. Maybe they live 3 hours away from me, and they aren't going to be at a live show anytime soon. However, they still like the mixing skills. They still like the type of song selection. And that's how you branch out. And that's how you get booked for the private party 3 hours away.
Yep. And it's the number one thing that a booker will ask. Let's say they haven't decided who they're going to book yet. They're going to ask, hey, send me something. They'll give you their business card. I deal with a lot of venue managers or owners. They say, yeah, I want to check, your stuff out. And you got to have something to give them.
Oh, and that's going to be a whole topic for our podcast, is how to construct a very good mix. However, next week, me and Sway are going to be keeping on the topic of social media with an episode completely on social media techniques.
Make sure to subscribe to us. We're on iTunes, Stitcher.
Please remember to join us on Facebook. Our address again is facebook.com/groups/union DJs.
That is our official Facebook page that we're basing this off of. And this was produced by Modulation Studios. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, if you're a DJ that would like to join as a guest, feel free to email us at modulationstudios@gmail.com.